Friday coffee with your mortgage man, Eric. Here we go. So, today marks about a year since I've been doing these videos. It's the 31st video that I'm doing. And we're going to talk about some of the things that I get asked about on a daily basis on what are the most difficult things that we have to deal with, or that our consumers, our buyers have to deal with when it comes to processing the loan. And that's an easy one for me. And it all comes down to assets. Now, I'm going to break assets down into several different sessions or videos, or otherwise we'd be talking for 30 minutes. So today, we're going to talk about the Earnest Deposit. Let's just talk about the Earnest Deposit. Believe it or not, the income and the employment history and the residence history and all of that really is not an issue anymore today. All that stuff is usually vetted out long before it even gets into the processing pipeline. And the 95% of issues or frustrations come from the assets. And assets being one of them is the Earnest Deposit money. So, good coffee today. When you make an offer on a home, you got to write an Earnest Deposit check. Some people call it a security deposit check. Same thing. Typically $1,000. And the higher you go in your purchase price, the more that could become. $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, etc. So when you stroke that check or wire transfer, there's three ways. There's only three ways that you can give an earnest deposit. The most typical way that is done, I'd probably say 80% of the time, is a personal check. So you stroke out a personal check. And what do we need as proof that the check has cleared the account, right? It's called a canceled check. That is a banking term, not a lending term. That is a banking term. When you write a check, the person cashes it or deposits it, and it clears your account. That is now called a canceled check. Some people get confused. Well, I didn't cancel the check. No, we know that. It's just called a canceled check or a cleared check. If you want to call it a cleared check, that's fine. What do we need to get that check? You got to log into your online bank account, or you can go into your own bank if you want to do that. But why would you do that? I have no idea, because you can log into your online bank account and have this printed out within minutes, maybe a minute tops. We need the front side of the check and the back side of the check. Back side of the check is where they usually stamp it or they have those scan codes. And now that is proof that the check has cleared the account, aka a canceled check. Some people will say, well, you get that from title. The escrow is going to email that to you. No, they don't. What do they email to us? Is a copy of the front side of the check. That's it. Think about it. They don't have access to your online bank account. The only person that can get access to that is somebody that has your credentials to get into your account. And it's a very easy task to retrieve. But I think most people, they've never had to do it before. They've never had to print out. They never even looked at a canceled check or a cashed check or a cleared check on their online bank account before. And I think that's where they get frustrated. Well, it's not a canceled check. I don't know what you're talking about, Eric. Okay, cleared check. It's your cleared check, copy of the front and the back. Title does not give that to us. They give us a copy of the front of the check. We need a copy of the front side and the back side of the check. Is what it is. I didn't write the rules. So, moving on to the number 2, or the second most used form of an earnest deposit check. And I got to tell you, this is easier for us to deal with, is a cashier's check. You can't do money orders. You can do a cashier's check. You do a cashier's check, all I need is a copy of the check, which title can send over. See? So sometimes I think people get confused. Well, in my last deal, title took care of that and there wasn't any problem, Eric. Well, probably was a cashier's check. Then we could take it. Then we got what we need. Now I don't have to ask the borrower, the consumer, the buyer for the earnest deposit check because it was a cashier's check. Escrow gave it to us. Done. Number 3 is a wire transfer. It's the least most used form of earnest deposit monies, but some people do, especially your out-of-state buyers, your relos. And what do we need for that? we just need a copy of your wire transaction receipt or request. Most of the times it's synonymous. It's the same form. So when you go into your bank, and why don't people do wire transactions more often? It's because usually your banking facility is going to charge you somewhere between $20 to $50 per wire transaction, depending on the banking institution, depending on the accounts that you have, depending on the amount that you have in your accounts. They may discount the wire transaction fee, but there's going to be a fee to send a wire. So when you walk into your banking institution and you request a wire transaction for $1,000 or whatever the earnest deposit money demand is, typically the banker will help you fill out the form, a wire transaction request. They're typically have one of those white, yellow, pink copy things that they tear off, and they typically, not always, most times they'll hand you one of those. That is your wire transaction request and receipt 90% of the times. There are some oddity banks out there, or some oddity situations where you do a wire transaction request and you're not in person. Most banks will frown upon that, obviously, for obvious reasons of fraud. How do they know it's you when you're on the phone and you're not in person, right? We have had some circumstances where that happens. That is a rarity. I'm not going to spend 3 minutes going into detail about such a rarity. They are your 3 types of earnest deposits. I'll put this on my site for realtors and buyers, consumers, so they can, maybe I can just, copy and paste the link to them so they can better understand what is needed from them on the earnest deposit. So that's it for today. We're out of here in like 7 minutes. Holy moly. It's Friday Coffee with your mortgage man, Eric. 602-757-2171. Have a great day. We'll see you. Bye-bye.